Hello everyone and welcome back to Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
You have done well, my friend. The information you supplied is invaluable. So someone thinks they can stop me obtaining all the talismans! Of course he will never succeed! I want this meddling mammal stopped at any cost!
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Those talismans are as good as mine. Begin phase 2!
There's nothing quite like a moonlit billabong. Except maybe a moonlit billabong full of giant roaches, spiders and bats.
Even with the giant roaches, spiders, and bats, this is probably one of the most beautiful stages in the entire game. I would go so far as to call it serene, even. Everything has a nice soft blue to it.
G'day, Ty. Welcome to the billabong. This is the home of me old mate, Dennis the Cheapskate. Sorry, I mean Green Tree Frog. Oh, dear. He has got the biggest thunder egg collection this side of the Black Stub. I've tried to convince him to give some up, but he's too precious with them. I'm sure if you did some odd jobs for him, he'd be happy to throw some your way, you know what I mean. Leave it to me, Maury.
Well, I mean, we're no strangers to doing odd jobs, so this should be no problem, but first we're going to go ahead and dive in the water. This is the first stage after shipwrecks where we can use our water wings. Did you see what I did there? Water wings. But yes, there is quite a bit of water in this stage, not nearly as much as shipwrecks, of course, but we'll be swimming for quite a few minutes. If my voice sounds a little different than usual, it's not because I'm bored or anything, it's just because this stage's general lighting and mood make me feel very relaxed, I guess you could say. And here's our first Bilby. He's one of the very few collectibles hidden in or around the water. This stage is not nearly as cruel with hiding its collectibles as Shipwrecks was. But you know, that's enough time just laying back and splashing around. We have green tree frogs to meet, we have opals to collect, and we have enemies to bash. New enemies, I might add. So you know, we have some new enemies to fight. Let's test out our multi-rangs on these guys. So yeah, the thing about these guys is that they can block. Our multi-rangs, as cool as they are, aren't going to do anything to them, though they do go down in 2 bites. Of course, though, the multi-rang isn't our only new boomerang, so let's try our flamerang and see how that works out. The golden cogs in this stage, as with most of the collectibles, are hidden in rather obvious places. Not that I'm complaining. So yeah, we can use our flamerangs to catch their bats on fire. Also, I was trying to bite this invisible box, but of course that doesn't work, as it's invisible and Ty can't see it. We've quickly found our way around the new enemy's ability to block, but they do have a few other tricks up their sleeve, such as their ability to hit balls at us, though they often miss. This level is pretty cleanly split into 2 parts. The first half, where we are right now, is rather linear. Oh, hold on, another new enemy. The spiders will take 3 hits from our flamerangs, but only 1 bite. They're one of the 2 agile enemies in this stage that rather easily dodge our attacks, and can maneuver themselves in positions to get around to our backside, which is bad for us. But as I was saying, this first part of the stage is rather linear, as opposed to the second half, which is very open. It's one of the few stages where there's such a clean difference between the 2 halves. We can't quite reach that golden cog, but I'm sure we'll find a way to get it later. You may have noticed that the opals we're collecting here are blue. They're the ice opals, but no, they don't really do anything different. They're still opals. We still need to collect all 300 of them. Man, this stage looks nice. So from up here, you might guess we can reach that golden cog below. Something every level in this game does is it expands on the gliding mechanics at least a little bit. So yeah, the hardest jumps yet in the game are in this stage, but don't expect anything super crazy. Just a little bit trickier than what we're used to. I've said this before, but it bears repeating, this game actually looks pretty nice for 2002. For example, that tree texture looks rather natural with the ground texture. That was apparently very hard to get right. So right here you can see what I mean by the spider enemies being mobile. They actively try to jump around to our backside as a way to dodge our boomerangs, and then attack us from behind. As with nearly every enemy in this game, they're not very difficult, but they're a little bit trickier. A little bit. The fact that they have a unique piece of design all to themselves kinda helps. Something else I've already said before that bears repeating is that I love how all the worlds in this game feel natural, like how we're wading through a kind of heel-deep creek that just kind of flows through the Billabong. Nothing in this waterfall. I know there wasn't, but I still had to check. I also like how the moths gather around the torches, as moths would do. Just pointing out the details, you know? This game has a lot of those. This bit right here is probably the most difficult part we're going to come across combat-wise for quite a while. It's in this rather hilly area where the 3 spiders can jump just as well as you can. And that one almost got us. Not that we would have died or anything, but again, the focus in this game is not really on the fighting. I love how real this stage feels. It feels like you could actually be here, aside from obvious video gamey things. Like, you could totally walk through a less cartoony version of this place, definitely. And if the camera feels like cooperating, there's a rather easy to find Bilby back here. Yeah, nothing here is super ruthlessly hidden, but I think it more than makes up for it in its atmosphere and layout. Do you like hearing about atmosphere? Because we're going to be talking a whole lot about atmosphere. There goes the hardest jump in the stage. I shouldn't say that, there's another one coming up that's actually pretty difficult. We've now officially entered the second half of the stage where most of the action happens. Gotta get this golden cog first, which, embarrassingly enough, is the collectible that took me the longest to find. Hey look, giant cockroaches, and there's the bridge that the title screen was talking about. And here's Dennis. Let's talk to Dennis.
Please don't hurt me.
Hey, relax, mate. I'm Ty, and you must be Dennis the cheapskate. Well, I mean Green Tree Frog.
Ty? Oh, Maury's friend. I'm so glad to see you. The local bully, Neddy, has extinguished all the lights that show my way home. And now I don't know where to go. It's not that I'm scared of the dark or anything, but, yes, could you kindly escort me home?
No worries.
Geez, Dennis, you could have said excuse me. So I suppose you could call this an escort mission, though we don't actually have to protect Dennis from the enemies. But he's not exactly the bravest guy. I mean, he just got scared by another frog, so one thing we do have to protect him from is the dark. He will only follow us if we light up every barrel as we pass it, and the barrels do slowly extinguish themselves. And if he's standing next to a barrel as its light goes out, well, he'll just run all the way back to start. So basically the enemies are there to stop us from lighting or relighting a barrel in time. They don't do a great job of that, but they probably would if I were a little bit younger. We did find out that the new enemies are weak to flamerangs pretty early on. And there isn't much to say about the cockroaches besides that they go down in one bite. I almost ran right in front of Dennis there. If we manage to do that, he will shove us completely out of the way. He will just bulldoze right over us. You saw a little bit of that back at the start, but if we actually try to push back against Dennis, then he will just completely and utterly destroy us. Fear can be a great motivator. Though Dennis's fear does bring some odd questions to mind, like why are some frogs sentient and some are apparently not? I feel like we should ask him that, but it might be racist? I'm not entirely sure. Hey, look at that, we made it to the bridge. We won't be spending a whole lot of time on this bridge, though I suppose it is the most interesting feature geographically. And here's a bat. The bats have a rather easy time of dodging our boomerangs. If we manage to nail them with the flamerangs, they go down in one hit, but they take multiple blows from any of our other boomerangs. And now we're in the home stretch, nothing else to worry about here except for lighting up these barrels. Some pretty great music as usual. Come on, Dennis. Come on. There he is.
Home sweet home. I made it thanks to you. I'm not sure if you know this, but I have a magnificent collection of thunder eggs. I insist that you have one.
I love how much body language Dennis has. It's just always fun to watch characters that move around so much. This is a pretty snazzy house considering it's part of a tree. Right there's the end of stage portal, but we're not even close to being done here. In addition to stashing away quite a few thunder eggs, Dennis has a golden cog hidden away from us as well. Now let's see if he has any other favors to ask of us.
Oh dear, this isn't good. My hot water system has given up the ghost. The pilot flames must have gone out. Could you find a way to fire up the gas again? I'm allergic to gas. Otherwise, I'd do it, you know.
Yeah, okay, no worries.
I mean, he didn't sound super convincing, but we're not in the business of doubting people. He says he needs his pilot lights lit, and we'll light him. I like this whole thing the game has going with Dennis having this super nice house, just kinda hanging out back here in the Billabong. I mean, he even has hot water running to it. Or at least he will when we finish this errand. Though, we do have one other thing we need to deal with real quick. Dennis, after all, is only one of two characters we've heard about. I was really obsessed with taking out that bat for some reason. Again, the enemy's not a big deal. Not at all. I do greatly appreciate that they switched things up, though. Quite a few of the stages have unique enemies to them.
You shouldn't be here, Ty. This is where Neddy lives. Neddy. Yes, Neddy. He's the biggest, toughest bully this side of the black stump.
Well, he doesn't sound so tough.
Nice one, Ty. Now you've riled him.
That's the second time we've heard Mori mention the Black Stump, and we'll see it eventually, but not for a while. It's not nearly as terrifying as it sounds. That's not to say it can't be frightening to 100%, but that's another kind of fear entirely. Right here are my favorite hidden collectibles in the stage, because I always wondered what was under these kinds of bridges as a kid. I mean, it's just kinda neat that they thought to hide things between these little cracks here. Like I said, they use every little last inch of space possible. Only gotta worry about one more. And we can see a pilot light over there, so let's go and deal with that real quick. And then we'll see what's up with this Neddy guy. I mean, we can't just let him go around bullying people. Maybe we'll be able to talk things out with him. I have high hopes for that.
Ho, ho, ho! Trespasser am orange rat, puny rat. No match for Neddy. Neddy clobber him good. Ooh.
Well, I guess not, so let's try the most obvious approach first. I don't think it's working. Let's... let's get out of here and come back with a different strategy. Because this is just no good.
Ho ho ho! Run away, little rat thing! Nettie, I'm too strong for you.
Now, it did seem that there were some kind of buckles holding his armor up on his back.
Oh! Orange rat back for more! Nettie, I'm going to squash rat good!
We've definitely gathered that hitting the heavily armored lizard head-on is not a good idea. So, this is probably the way to go about it. So, as a mini-boss, Nettie isn't great or anything, but I do definitely like that he has quite a few cutscenes. I mean, he talks to you every time you come and leave. Not many mini-bosses can claim that. Oh, and a giant target.
What? Orange rat beat Nettie! Oh, Nettie, I'm so ashamed. Here, Nettie gives shiny rock to new friend.
All right.
I guess we kinda talked things out, it was just after we already fought. You might have noticed during the cutscene, over Nettie's head, yep, another invisible box. But that's not the only one here, no. There is another one right on the other side of his arena. They are surprisingly easy to find in this stage.
Orange rat am Nettie's new best friend.
Again, if there's one thing I like about Nettie, it's that they gave him quite a bit of dialogue considering he only appears once. Mori doesn't really have anything to say about us beating Nettie though, he just kinda sits there. But now that we've talked to both Dennis and Nettie, we're ready to explore the rest of the stage, starting with this suspicious hanging platform. That seems about right. There are quite a few opals and hidden goodies that we couldn't even reach without this platform. I had previously thought that we simply needed to come back here with a different boomerang, but that was wrong entirely. So do you remember that turkey? I remember the turkey. Here's another turkey. This one also has a thunder egg. We're gonna deal with it right now. And there goes our thunder egg. Just kinda left us. Let's go see what's up with that. I mean, the thunder eggs normally just kinda gravitate right toward us, so something must be up here. Oh. Oh, it's a second turkey. And it has the thunder egg now. So this is kind of a puzzle. The idea is that you need to get both turkeys into the same place, otherwise they'll keep passing the thunder egg back and forth. It's actually pretty easy to do once you figure it out, but it's figuring it out that takes a while. And if we didn't have the second super bite, we could be here a while. Thankfully, I knew what to do ahead of time. I actually really love that thunder egg because it kind of puts a spin on a challenge you already went through, just kind of screws with your perception a little. I mean, it's not a huge blow-your-mind surprise, but it is pretty unexpected. We're gonna be waiting for this platform to come back for a second, so let's just skip a little bit. And as we collect these last few floating opals, if we focus on the background, we can see there's someone back there, someone else we haven't talked to yet. And he looks a little bit familiar. You know, let's just go and say hi, just to be friendly. Hey, it's Rex. Hey Rex, did you know you have some bats swarming around you? The bats are a little bit easier to deal with at close range because you don't have to aim quite as much with your boomerangs. And let's just light this pilot light real quick before we go say hi to our buddy.
G'day, mate. I came here to give Dennis some diving lessons, but he chickened out.
Well, who can blame him?
You know, Ty, it's high time you learnt how to dive. All you have to do is run and press the jump button near the water's edge, then press the bite button to do a dive. See if you can dive into that yellow crate.
We actually learned how to do this quite a while ago, but this is the game's kind of official tutorial for it. It's actually pretty impossible to miss this crate. It's way larger than it looks in the cutscene. And if we swim over here before we go talk to Rex, yep, another invisible picture.
Bonza, you're a natural, Ty. If you're up to the challenge, why don't you try the Super Tower High Dive? Here's the challenge, mate. Dive from the top of the Super Tower and pass through each of the rings on the way down. If you get them all, I'll give you a Thunder Egg.
Oh, you beauty!
I like that there is this special place just kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere with a giant metal tower called a Super Tower, just kind of hanging out. Also, this minigame is super easy. Super easy. It does continue the game's trend of simple minigames that add variety, though.
That was a pearler of a dive. I tell you what, mate, you'd give the Pippi Beach Nippers a run for their money. Here, you've earned this.
Ripper!
And with that, we have finally officially talked to everybody in the stage. Now we just have the rest of the Opals, Bilbies, and Golden Cogs to round up. But that's not going to take nearly as long as you imagine. Especially since our last Bilby's just right here. We could have easily gotten him much earlier, but I like to keep the flow going. And around the other side of the tree, alongside a bat, are just a few lingering Opals. We're nearly done with those too. Thankfully, every single Opal in this stage is rather easy to spot, even underwater. Though it can be easy to confuse the barrels with crates sometimes. And that's pretty much it as far as underwater collectibles goes, but there is something else hidden in this pile of logs over here. Not a collectible by itself, but yeah, it's another switch. It magically makes that platform move, which means we can now reach those two pilot lights as well as a golden cog underneath the bridge. And from right here we can already see yet another golden cog. Again, all the collectibles here really easy to spot. And across these three platforms is the hardest jump in the game so far. It may seem pretty simple from here, but it does have one trick up its sleeve. Aside from the bats. Though this is a good time to talk about their attack pattern. As soon as they spot you, they swoop in, and you can either jump over them or just kind of scoot out of the way. But yes, this platform right here, it's slanted, so if you try to jump at it head on, just kind of slide right off. You actually have to make a pretty big mid-air turn to grab this one. It took me an embarrassing number of tries to get that right, but the important thing is that we got it. Now let's see about the rest of those pilot lights. Here's our friendly switch-activated platform, which will take us to these two pilot lights that we just couldn't reach otherwise. It does take us surprisingly close though, so it can be difficult to aim. There we go, and this platform also takes us around to that golden cog under the bridge. Fun fact about these crocodiles while we're floating, they will not attack you underwater, only if you're on the water's surface. They will not care if you are directly beneath them. Just listen to the music, I guess. And there we go. Now one more golden cog, some opals, and the last two pilot lights are the last collectibles we need to worry about. There are just a couple of platforms floating around here where we first met Dennis, and riding on them gives us access to the last two pilot lights. This also provides one of the tricky jumps for the stage. Our platform moves away as the other one moves closer, so we have to time our jump fairly well. Which I did not. There we go. That was embarrassing, but that's all 8 pilot lights, so now we can go talk to Dennis about our Thunder Egg.
Superb! Now I can make a nice hot cup of tea. Thank you, Ty. Here's a little something that I insist you have. It's from my magnificent collection of Thunder Eggs.
Grouse as!
And that's the only 2 Thunder Eggs we'll be getting from Dennis right here. And if you were paying close attention earlier, there is one more golden cog hanging out on that tree that we can only reach from the bridge. So that's everything but the race, and luckily for us, the Thunder Egg machine is right here.
Even the cockroaches here like a flutter at the track. It's so simple, even you can have a go. Just run to the finish, making sure you go through each checkpoint.
Since this is a fairly simple race with no one to actually race against, let's use this opportunity to talk about the level as a whole. My favorite thing about the level, and the most obvious thing about the level in general, is that they made the Moonlit Billabong look like a Moonlit Billabong. Everything has a rather soft shade of blue, and cartoonish aesthetic aside, it seems like a place you could actually walk through. And the relaxing music, not this music of course, only helps with the atmosphere. Next up, even though Nettie's personality is kind of generic, they gave him quite a bit of dialogue considering he's a one-shot boss, and I think that's exactly the reason they should have given him a lot of dialogue. So I'm pretty happy with that. They also established the idea of return characters using Rex to give you the idea that, you know, the NPCs don't exist in just one place. Moving on to the level's design, it pretty much acts as a seamless tutorial for the flamerangs. You use the flamerangs to light these barrels, break the spiderwebs, attack the new lizard enemies, and light the pilot lights. And I think that's everything, but that's quite a bit for one level. Then there's the 2 turkeys, which take an idea you've already experienced and throw a new spin on it to subvert your expectations. Lastly, this stage contains the 2 hardest platforming challenges yet. They aren't terribly difficult, but they both require some pretty tricky mid-air maneuvering. This is important because the glide function is kind of the basis for Ty's entire platforming design. Oh, and I really like the way they animated Dennis.
Not bad at all. You've made it through in record time. Here's your Thunder Egg. Sweet.
And that's absolutely everything, but we do have a tradition to keep up as we exit the stage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.